are now going to move into the debate of the morning. The actual topic for the debate today, I'm not sure it's going to come up on the screen, but it is, and you'll have it, I presume, in your information. This Parliament believes that every caring situation is unique. That is why it is important that all carers have the right to personalised, supportive conversations that focus on their individual outcomes, identifies the type of support they need, and provides the opportunity to decide how that support is delivered. This Parliament recognises the progress that has been made through legislation and policy development and calls on the Scottish Government, COSLA and their partners to support carers from all communities across Scotland to exercise their rights to support and ensuring that the diversity of caring roles is recognised and celebrated. So now is your opportunity to contribute to that debate. We have, to really respect the distance and journey, I'm going to first of all ask Stacey Yamonos from Eurocarers to say a few words to start. But first of all, before I do that, I just want to explain the format. For those of you who've been before, you will no doubt know, but the point of this discussion is really for people to contribute to the debate. So we've got roving mics around the room. You will have 3 minutes. Everybody will have 3 minutes to speak and to either tell their story or share their experience or to comment and contribute or to react to something that somebody else has said. That's all absolutely fine. I will endeavour to manage those conversations so that everybody gets a chance to speak. But we really will be looking for those interventions to be concise. So that's a really important part of the conversation because there's a lot of you and we want to encourage as many contributions as possible. So I will stop speaking and ask Stacey to come to or to stand up. There he is there. Yeah, great, thanks.
Good morning. Yes. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Stacey Yamonos, and I'm actually the director of an EU umbrella organization called Eurocarers. We are based in Brussels. This is my second Carers Parliament meeting. So I just wanted to let you know that we're here in the room with a delegation of colleagues from 10 countries, and 10 colleagues from 6 countries. So they were listed before, so I'm not going to repeat them. Just to let you know that our job is really to convey your voice as well at international level. We work a lot with the institutions, but not only. I know Brexit is coming, so you might think, what's the point? Well, actually, we strongly believe that the carers movement we're trying to build and strengthen is not only about the institutions. It is there to last, and it's there to grow. And we're using the institutions as a vehicle to do that, but we also work with the United Nations, with the WHO, again, to make sure your voice is heard and the perspective of carers is taken into account in policy developments. So why are we here today? Well, we're here for 2 reasons. First of all, the policy environment to support and empower carers in Scotland is probably one of the most comprehensive in Europe. So we're here to learn. And yesterday we had the chance of spending a full day with colleagues from Vocal, and obviously Vocal, Carers Scotland, Carers Trust, Carers UK, Coalition of Carers in Scotland are all part of the network. So we spend the day with colleagues to learn about the policy environment and to make sure we can, take some of the strengths of this environment and bring them home with us, and maybe, hopefully, help strengthen that and spread that across Europe. The second reason is this event, we believe, is just an amazing illustration of how it is possible to actually interact with, ministers. We don't see this everywhere. This is really extraordinary. So we're here to also try and learn about this event and make sure this also is developed in other parts of Europe. We took some risks to come here. At the time we booked our flights, we didn't know Brexit would be postponed. So we really wanted to be here, and so feel free to interact with colleagues from Belgium, Greece, England, Ireland, Finland, and Sweden. They're all in the room, and we look forward to the discussion with you.
Thank you so much. So it's really interesting to reflect that this is not just a Scottish issue. I mean, we know that, but actually to get that European experience, I think, is really important. So it's now, we're wide open to people. Thank you. I see you first there. The thing to do is to raise your hand and try to get me, eyeball me, and then because I'm the one that gets to decide who speaks next. So if you want to, if you, I don't have it like in the Parliament where there's an order paper, but so that's the job, is to make eye contact with me. This gentleman has managed it. Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Just to kick things off, when the Carers Act was being discussed, we tried to get one major issue delivered, and that was to have all carers in Scotland to be recognised and have the same potential outcomes. In my opinion, this is a human right. Austerity hit carers very badly, denying new services and cutting existing ones. The problem was, and still is, that local authorities will only accept carers when they're able to supply services for them. But that's not the way it should be. A carer should be able to have an assessment and then have their needs identified. Now, if the local authority can provide those services, all well and good. But because of the financial climate, this is not always the case. During the discussions concerning the bill, it was mooted that if the local authority was unable to fulfill a carer's requirements for help or a service, then this should be recorded as an unmet need. This is important because when money does become available, as it surely will, then we will know what help and services are needed and won't need to waste time by having to trawl for the answers. Unfortunately, during the drafting of the bill, it appears that COSLA were adamant that they would not take this on board and would continue to operate on the basis of services that exist currently. At the time, Jamie Hepburn, the minister in charge, said that he would not force the recording of unmet needs in the bill itself, but that he would have this as included in the supporting information behind the bill. And if the situation was not working satisfactorily, he would require the compulsory recording of unmet needs. Now, I've no idea if this has been included in any directives, but I will be decidedly disappointed if it's not. And of course, Jamie Hepburn has now a different brief, and it would be up to Mr. Fitzpatrick to review the situation. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like to say where you're from and who you are?
Sorry, I'm Tom Whiteman, and I'm on the board of PASDA, a carers organisation that look after the adults, the carers of adults with autism.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a lady there just behind him. So, sorry, I should have said, if you could say who you are and where you're from when you start, that'd be great.
I'm Marie McWaters. I'm from North Ayrshire Health and Social Care Partnership. I've been a carer for a long time, longer than I care to remember, to be perfectly honest. But last year I asked Joe to go back in the Carers Act funding, to go back to the Scottish Government and check and see that the local authorities and the partnerships were spending the money exactly the way it was intended on carers. Because in our area there was a bit of a, let's say, movement of money into certain areas where they had holes in their budget for respite care. And the rest of apparently last year, it seemed to be that a lot of areas had similar issues with that the Carer Act funding came from the Scottish Government, was dumped, not ring-fenced, was dumped to be used for carers, but local authority discretion is obviously in the mix there. But it turns out, I thought it was a bit unfair that part of the funding that was supposed to be for new business, for carers, new support, etc., was plugging in respite funding. So I asked you last year to go and find out from the Scottish Government if all the local authorities were using the money as intended.
Excellent, thank you. This lady at the front here. Sorry. This lady here first, and then, yep, the lady with the blonde hair. Okay, do you want to go first? Till we get that microphone working. Yep.
Hello, my name's Rebecca. I'm from Glasgow. My eldest daughter is 6 years old and is profoundly disabled. The biggest drain on my time, my energy, my mental health is not my caring role. It's the consistent and constant battle for services and the almost... In the almost 7 years that I've been the parent to a disabled child, we have fought homelessness, we have fought for education, we have fought to be diagnosed amongst accusations of Munchausen's by proxy. We have had annual renewals for DLA for lifelong and permanent disabilities that are not going to go away. And we had a 3.5-year battle to access self-directed support for my daughter. It's constant. Every time you feel like you hit and win a battle, another one crops up in its place. It's like the snakes on Medusa's head. You chop one down and two appear. We finally won the battle for self-directed support. Now we're looking at things like Brexit and medicine shortages. These are really, really real. We went to social work in crisis the day after my daughter's 3rd birthday, asking for support. We got our budget last month and she will be 7 in January. This is constant. We were made homeless 24 hours after my 3rd daughter was born. This is really what's happening. An extra £260 twice a year doesn't make up for the emotional turmoil that we go through, and it's not the caring role. I love my daughter to the ends of the earth, whether she has special needs or not. The support that I need is that I don't have to worry about these other battles so that I can focus on raising her, giving her a memorable life, giving her a good life where she's included and respected as an active member of her community. And to do that, I need the resources, but I don't have to fight for them. That's my biggest bugbear, is the constant fight. I just want to be able to enjoy my daughter for as long as I have her here without cutting through red tape and bureaucracy.
Not having much luck. Hi everyone.
It's working,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you. My name is Vicky, Vicky Johnston. I'm a mum to a little boy who is 7. He has Fragile X syndrome. He's also been diagnosed with ADHD and autism. I'm a single parent, and for the past 3 years I've been out of work because I left primary school teaching so I can be a full-time carer. I was reading the briefings last night and I was going through it and I was thinking to myself, oh, I identify as a woman, I identify as a carer, I identify as being within the age bracket, I'm 32, of one of the ages of the highest rate of carers, sorry. and then it had said as well about the fact that females tend to be the ones that come out of work, females tend to be the ones that are the ones that go on benefits, and I could identify, even though it is diverse, I could identify to all of those. And then I just want to continue with what the lady just said there that spoke before me. I can be you, I can exactly be you. I'm actually living in East Kilbride, so I'm south, not Glasgow, but I recently decided that I had had enough of staying at home when my child was at school and looking at a blank wall, or staying in bed because my mental health is so bad. Because of the fighting to get, I still don't have SDS, even though I have spoken to Take Control, which is a great organisation that we have in Hamilton. They helped me put through an application to my social workers, and they sort of haven't got back in touch. So I can resonate exactly with you, different local authority, but the same things. And very lastly, I just wanted to say, after 3 years of caring for my son, I without work. I still care the exact amount of hours for my son, but I decided that I needed something for me, something more, and I decided to take up a part-time job in the Lanarkshire Carer Centre in Hamilton because there was an administrative role that was going, and I thought, my skill set can fit into there, I'll see if I can go for it. I did, I got it, and I feel like I've got a bit of a purpose, actually, which is so great for mental health. But as Joe said, social security is for everybody. I've lost my carer's allowance by taking up a part-time role, and I'm not making even as much money as what probably all the benefits I was on was maybe getting me. But for my health, I needed it, and I'm taking a cut so that I can be out there, be amongst adults, have adult conversations, and try and get my mental health to be better than what it is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This lady here in yellow, and there was, did you want to, so 1, 2, 3, okay, 4, right, got you, that's enough for the moment, thank you.
My name is Patricia Hewitt. I live in the Scottish borders. I moved to Scotland 20 years ago, which was the worst decision in our lives. It landed up, we'd lost a baby daughter on an operating table, decided to start again. We'd heard about a wonderful education system. What's happened subsequently was my husband was diagnosed with cardiomyopathy. His cardiac output was 7.5%. He was on a heart transplant list for 5 years, then died of misdiagnosed cancer of the stomach. My eldest son nearly had a nervous breakdown. He had failed his advanced hires, no care, no support. The youngest 2 boys, one's 22 now, one's 23. The 23-year-old will spend his life on benefits. I can't get help, I can't get support. I get absolutely nothing. The 22-year-old was written off as lazy and winging it. He is now doing a Bachelor of Music degree at Edinburgh College because a tutor listened to the absolute horror stories. The first diagnosis was 17 and 18 of Asperger's, and it was me who worked it all out all the way through. I was told for 8 years, this 23-year-old, it was behavioural issues, and it was post-traumatic stress disorder. He was bullied from primary 2 to S6. He was eventually bullied out of school. Both were illegally excluded for 5 months. When I complained, the system closed ranks. What they actually have is something called pathological demand avoidance syndrome. And it's a form of autism because it's not in the manuals as such. It's very much a postcode lottery. The behaviour is like a switch. They go from absolutely wonderful to being absolutely awful. And the mental health issues they've got is just absolutely horrendous. Because I took on the system, I've been bullied, threatened, lied to, and the response from the First Minister down over has been nothing but a bloody disgrace. I can't get help. My 23-year-old now spends his life on benefits. I can't access mental health. And it's just an absolute disgrace. I had to go private to get a diagnosis because the youngest one agreed. What we've found out subsequently, the amount of so-called professionals, what I've come across is my Tory MSP at the time helped the SNP cover up. And it's all it is, the system closes ranks and covers up. There are so many people. We've got education laws not worth the paper they're written on. We've got an autism strategy refreshed, it should be shredded. And all it is, we'll have consultation after consultation. Nothing changes. And as far as we're concerned, coming here, it's no different. And it's fighting the system for everything. There's tens of thousands of parents and carers in crisis and beyond with children with serious mental health. And where do we go from here? Nobody will listen. We've had both of us, excuse me, I'm sitting down, illegal restraint and seclusions, the whole lot, and it is a national disgrace. Nobody listens. I've reported borders carers have been bone-idle lazy. They did nothing for me for 2 years. They've done an assessment of my needs, but I'll get nothing. I'm also in poor health, and until, I need help with personal care, I get nothing, just been abandoned, and it is a disgrace.
Okay, thank you. So there's a lady there with long hair and glasses. Yes, you. Thank you. And there's, I see, yep, got you both.
Hi, I'm Katrina Spink. I live on the island of Tiree. Originally, when my eldest daughter has severe autism, so we started off in the Highlands, based in Inverness, where I fought for years to get a package which actually gave me 5 hours of care a day. During that time, suffering abuse, my autistic daughter and I suffering abuse from my partner, which was not recognized by social services. In fact, I was basically told that I was the bad person and that I was neglecting both my daughters, which is absolutely horrific when you are a caring person and you give your whole being to your children. So I basically ran away effectively, and I moved to the island of Tiree, where I had a good network of friends and had connections with that since I was 19 years old. My package did not follow with me, so my 5 hours a day went to nothing. I still had a month's worth of budget, so I managed to employ people myself. When that ran out, I was awarded 5 hours a week, which was then reduced because I was asking the carer to do things like wash dishes. My autistic daughter has severe visual and auditory problems, so having dishes piled up on the sink, if she threw something, basically I was then dealing with smashed dishes everywhere, and 2 young children, a single parent. So the consequence of that was, one day I was walking down the beach and I got a phone call with my autistic daughter. My normal daughter was in school. I got a phone call from the social worker saying, if you don't put your autistic daughter into a residential facility, you will lose both your children. So I was then forced to give up my autistic daughter. So she went to a very good facility, Camp Hill, the Rudolf Steiner. Which, of course, I'm happy that she was there, but I'm totally bereaved. So basically, she'd come home for the holidays. During the holidays, no care, no help. So she's now 22 years old now. So I can totally aspire with other voices around here how much I've had to fight my whole life to get a decent package for her, to find support. So eventually I get SDS. Okay, so because I live on an island, it's very difficult to actually get carers. So for 1 year, my social worker said that, right, you can pay yourself as a carer when your daughter is home. So she's 24/7. She's got epilepsy as well as severe autism. So I couldn't find any carers because of my location being so remote, island of Tiree, 50 miles out to sea. But at least I could pay myself for 8 hours over that 24 hours that I'm looking after her. That meant that when she was back in school, the jobs I did just kept my finances at a reasonable level. I could actually afford to go and, I could afford to pay my rent. It was an amazing difference. So anyway, that suddenly got taken away from me because she became 16, I'm her legal guardian, and that benefit was taken away from me. I still can't get care. So I have 4 part-time jobs. I work voluntary for the fire service. I work in a hotel, which I lose those hours when she's home. I have to drop everything. I'm self-employed quite successfully. So when I manage to have a pop-up shop, I can take in sort of 400, 500 pounds. So I could actually make a living from this, but I'm denied it at every corner because she's home for 4 months of the 12 months a year. And in that time, I can't get any benefits. I can't get any help. I am 24/7, and she's up, a lot of the nights. It's hard work. Anyway, the system is not helping. It's out there. SDS is it's almost like an excuse. I've got the legal guardian. When I do my accounts for my daughter, they say, oh, you can take £600 out for doing the accounts if the budget can withstand it. The budget can't withstand it. By the time I've paid my part of her money to Camp Hill, she's left with 25 quid a week. So there's huge expense involved. The system's failing, totally failing. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
It's an amazing system, but it doesn't work. And I'm told that the Islands Bill can help me, but then I'm actually told by MECOP, no, the Islands Bill can't help you because it would say that you're actually being advantaged by where you live, not disadvantaged. It's wrong.
Thank you. So there's a lady. Yep, lady. There's two women at that table there, and then I'm going to ask if another man would like to speak, just to get a bit of gender balance. It's okay. I recognise the diversity, but yeah, on you go.
I'm Fiona Thompson. I'm from North Ayrshire. The question I'd like to put to Joe and the Scottish Government is that the monies that they give to the local authorities and the health boards, that they do ring-fence this money for carers so it cannot be used for anything else. Also, myself, for caring for 20 years, I'm now physically and mentally exhausted and I really don't want to do it anymore. The question I'd also like to ask is how many carers now have long-term conditions because of the stress that they have through their caring role? Can you put that underlined for the first one about the ring fencing, please?
Thank you. The lady with the blonde hair, yep.
Hello, I'm Pauline. I'm from Midlothian, Pauline Campbell. I would just like to raise the contribution to care charges that are going on around the country. I know that there's Frank's Law for personal care, but it's not getting implemented properly. And the other thing is, for people that have got severe learning disabilities, they have got no way of earning their way out of poverty. They're on benefits for the rest of their lives, and it's set at a level, well, it is what it is. But they are now getting huge portions of their benefit money taken off them by the council for a contribution to care charges. And these councils are doing it without doing any financial impact assessment on the young adults. They don't take into account any of the disability-related expenditure, and there is no control. Each council does their own thing. Now, Glasgow, I'm not even from Glasgow, but Glasgow charges are horrific. And Midlothian is, I mean, they're expecting £70 for this, then they're wanting a contribution for their taxi money now. So if they've got a mobility car, well, I'm sorry, the mobility car doesn't come with a chauffeur. So we've got the mobility car for my daughter, but yet, because I refuse to drive her back and forward, I have a life, you know. We're also having to pay money out of her care allowance to pay £1 a tax. Okay, it's £1 a taxi. £1 a taxi is cheap, but not when you're on disability money. And she costs me, I don't know, broken tellies, broken beds, throws shoes out the windows. The extra expense every week is astronomical. There's just no impact. And why should my child, I mean, she's 24, she's still my baby, but they're twins, 24-year-old twins. Why should they not be able to go on holiday somewhere nice? Just because they're not going to be able to work. It's not their fault that they've got severe disabilities. And I just feel that the councils, we should be living in a society that provides for people that can't work their way out of it themselves. They deserve a life like everybody else. And I would like the Scottish Government to step up to the plate and put some regulation and control in place to prevent the councils clawing back money from the most vulnerable in our society.
Thank you. I'm Peter Lawson. So everybody's come a long way. I've come about 3 miles, so I feel a little bit guilty. I want to go on a slightly different slant. So Joe knows me already. As I work for the Royal Bank of Scotland, I'm the carers lead at the Royal Bank of Scotland, part of the Family and Carers Network there, and we're a carer positive exemplary employee already. So we do a lot of good things to support working carers, but there's still a lot we can do as well, and we have the same problems that everybody else does in terms of things about getting policies and regulations applied in a consistent way, no matter what we do. One thing that I just wanted to follow up on the lady from Hamilton who's taken the part-time job. One of the things that I was talking to Joe about, and he was at a conference at RBS a few weeks ago, is about the support to keep people who are working carers actually in work. And also probably something that moves forward from that the lady from Hamilton said is also about getting carers back into the workplace where they have the opportunity to do so and are not financially penalised for taking that job, because it's a huge thing for a carer if they can stay in work for their self-esteem, mental health, etc. And it may put an extra strain on at times. I know I've suffered from stress, anxiety, depression, like a lot of carers have. But actually having that work and actually having that outlet to go and speak to other people, and also with networks at larger companies where you've got people who are in the same situation who you can talk to, is a very, very important thing. So that's probably one thing that I would urge the Scottish Government to look at, is how you can actually get carers back into work and not financially penalising them for taking a part-time job, which will actually help and potentially prevent problems as we go forward in the future.
Hold on, yeah, those, yeah, Abby, would you like to? I'll come back to you.
Hi, so I'm Abby. I'm one of the media ambassadors. But as a young adult carer, when I turned 16, I noticed that the support and respite that I receive began to become less. And I know that many other young adult carers feel the same from many different places, not just from my area. In my area, we only have one support worker for the whole of the young adult services. And right now, we did have one support worker, but she's left and we're left with nobody. I care for my little brother, he's 13, but the way he deals with certain situations isn't the best. And recently our gran passed away and we're very close to our granny. He hasn't been dealing the best and he's been taking us out in school, and on me and in my caring role, I've been trying to help him the best I can, but I've not been receiving any support for my mental health and for how I'm feeling. And every time I've been getting worse because I turned 16 in February, and whenever my mental health gets worse and I'm not feeling my best, I've not had the support that I need. And I'm just wondering, what do you think you could do to change this?
Okay, so there's a lady here with an animal print top on who's been waiting to speak for ages, and then I'll come to some of the women in the back. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name's Susan Lang. I'm from Perth, so Perth and Kinross Council is our local authority. I have a 36-year-old adult autistic son who has spent almost 9 years in Strathmartin Hospital in Dundee because Perth and Kinross Council has not provided care for him in the community. Prior to going into Strathmartin, he was in an organisation, he was cared for by an organisation called Castlebeck Care, same organisation as Winterbourne House in Bristol, where the famous panorama, about the abuse. My son also suffered horrendous abuse in Dundee at Monroe House, and the injuries he was sustaining on a regular basis was horrendous. And I suppose as a parent, feeling so helpless and not really getting the support, the police couldn't even they interviewed the person one of them who abused him, and as it turned out, when it came to taking it any further, they decided that my son wasn't a reliable witness because of his autism, although he knew exactly what happened. However, now, just over a year ago, there was plans for a specialist unit for him and another couple of adults in Strathmartin, all from Perth. They were going to be built a specialist unit. Planning permission, everything had gone out to tender. and then just out of the blue, without warning, they pulled the plug on it. Now, I moved from Perth, 20 miles to Invergowrie, to be close by to support him, because he does require an awful lot of support. And I'm there, I work full time, but I'm also his carer and, you know, offer him a great deal of support. And I wanted to be there for that, close by. I don't know where he's going to go now. And they're talking, you know, elsewhere in Perthshire, which could be anywhere. After I've left my family home, I'm 20 miles from friends and family now to do this for my son. And it's just horrendous. In fact, when you're talking about human rights, when an adult is in hospital for almost 9 years because the local authority won't provide the care, I mean, that is criminal. And sorry, we have, yeah, I've been to, like, wrote to my MSP, John Swinney, all sorts of people, but nobody really seems to be listening or being proactive in helping. So I would like the Scottish Government to help more, you know, or highlight that problem.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. Okay. Excellent, good. I've seen plenty of hands. We've got at least half an hour, so I'll try and get to you. There's two women, a lady with red hair and a lady with blonde hair, closest, either, yep. Sorry for calling you, identifying you by your, whatever features I can identify you with. It's not very, doesn't feel great, but anyway. Thank you.
So my name's Caitlin. I'm a young adult carer. So I'm 18 years old. I've been caring for 6 years. I care for my mum and my sister. My mum's got like fibro, but she's also got a few other things as well. And my sister has epilepsy and Asperger's. And obviously recently there's been the Young Carers grant that's come out, but there's like a few things like with it. You can only really apply if your cared for person meets like certain requirements as well. So there's then that group of young carers that are like not getting that support. Because I don't get it, for example, because my mum's been denied personal independence payment twice now, because she's managed to attend the appointments and to them she looks healthy. So I don't get, like for my caring role, I don't get anything. And it's not just me that's affected, like my two younger sisters are affected as well. One of them's 7, so she, like, it's crazy because she's 7, but she knows so much that she shouldn't know because she's been brought up, but she doesn't know that she shouldn't know this stuff. She's been brought up to think that that she should know the stuff that she knows, and she relies like on me more than my mum because obviously my mum's not there to have that support for them. But yeah, so it's mostly just like the Young Carers grant. So.
Thank you. No, the lady at the back table. No, behind you.
Oh,
yep.
Sorry. Hello, my name is Nina Luna and I'm a single parent carer. I have 3 children, the eldest of whom has got complex needs. She's got cerebral palsy and a few other things just for a laugh. She's in mainstream education, which she managed to achieve at the age of 15, and she'll leave at the age of 19, and no idea where she's going to go after that because she doesn't quite fit boxes. One of the things that I wanted to highlight and thank other people for highlighting is the issue of employment and survival. I do take issue with this notion that we're all going to be fabulous, we're all going to be working this time next year. I was a senior sister in the NHS. I did 27 years hard labour. I had to give that up because nobody was helping me with my daughter. My daughter was very, very sick. I was also fortunate at the time to also have a manufacturing company that I owned. I've had that for 13 years while I was still working as a senior sister part-time. And that also had to go. 6 employees disappeared. They lost their employment with me not being able to stay in employment because I was not supported in my caring role well enough. The reason I eventually ended up with a fantastic package of SDS was that I ended up with a patient in my own critical care unit following what they thought was Lyme's disease. It shouldn't come to crisis point that people are heard. And fighting has to stop. To make people fight for their rights or just fight to look after people they love is a violation of human rights. That's not right. Also, the intentions are well and good with moving forward with philosophies of independent living and support and SDS, but with austerity, with the cuts that have been in place, they're just not happening. And do have time to quote from The Guardian, especially in relation to care packages. When we're supposed to be moving forward into independent living and people using self-directed support and having control of their own lives. Can I just quote from the paper last week? There's an estimated 1 million disabled people, I presume this is UK, living without social care that they need, as according to research from the body. An increasing number of working-age disabled people are even being told they must move into residential care against their wishes rather than living independently in their own homes. I've been informed by my social work that when my daughter leaves school, her package of care will decrease and she will be offered residential care. This is institutionalisation by the back door. This is not independent living. This is something else. And it's possibly to do with the fact that the monies that we're talking about are not ring-fenced and they're being pushed elsewhere.
I can't see for the sun, excuse me. Right, okay. There's quite a few of you. Excellent. I'm going to say there's two women at this table, and then there's 3 women at this table, and there's another woman there, and then there's 3 of you in the middle. So that's quite a lot. Let's see if we can get through everybody. We will attempt to do that. 2 women here. Who had your hand up? Great.
My name's Carolyn Hunter, and I provide palliative care for my daughter, who's almost 10. The first 5 years of her life, I worked, despite the fact that she was constantly in hospital on life support. I had 3 other children to look after as well. And the reason I worked 2 days a week was because it was good for me, for my mental health. I was out in society. I was doing something I loved. It was a part of me that I recognised that I still had, despite being in this horrible bubble of ill health. 4 years ago, my oldest son was diagnosed with cancer. I had an accident, and a car accident, and I moved house. So it was all too much for me. However, I still wanted to work. I took some time off work. My employer was very, very, very good. Talking about fairness, they were amazing. They were very good. But I needed to employ, it got to the stage with my daughter that I needed to have 2 people looking after her instead of 1. So I asked social work and health. My daughter's primarily looked after by health because she has severe respiratory problems. She's intensive care at home, basically. We're nurses, and we look after her like that. Social work said to me, we will not support you with a second nurse to look after your daughter, so you can't go to work. I couldn't afford to pay £9 an hour times 2 to go back to work, even though I knew that I needed to do that because of my mental health and well-being and my future. My future is important as well. What happens to me if I lose my daughter, which could happen. I still need to live. I still need to be part of society. So I had to give my work up. And ever since I gave my work up, my mental health deteriorated. I have serious hypertension, so I'm on medication for that. Sometimes I wake up and I just don't see a future. I look after my daughter wholeheartedly and the rest of my family, but I've become isolated from society. I'm not who I should be, and I just want to go back to work. So I spoke to social work a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I want to either study or go back to work. And she says, it's not our job to provide you with childcare. Something needs to change.
There's another lady at that table.
Hi there, my name is Fiona Millen. I'm from Renfrewshire. I have two sons in the autistic spectrum. One is 18 and one is 19. I have had a battle since my two boys were 2 years old. Thankfully, the Paisley Carer Centre has been an excellent support. It took me a 1.5 year battle to get a self-directed support package put in place for David when he was transitioning from school to college. He would not have been able to go to college if he didn't have full-time support. I was told that David had a budget 3 days before he started attending college. That was a 1.5 years of stress that was unnecessary. David will need lifelong support. He's been through the education system, yet when he left school, there was no budget ready for him. I really don't have, my youngest son is 18. I have no desire to go through another battle with the authority. Therefore, I have a younger son who is not getting his needs met purely because I don't have the energy or the desire to repeat what I had to go through with my eldest son. You were talking earlier about possibly giving families money if there was 2 disabled children. Very often, these children remain in the house due to being inadequate housing when they transition into adulthood. I think that should be a lifelong payment if you've got 2 adult children in your house. I think that's something you want to be considering. Thank you.
And then there are 3 people in the middle. Oh, yep.
Thank you. My name's Zahida. I live in Edinburgh, and I resonate with a lot of what's already been said in this room. Now, I'm a single parent to 2 children. One has 2 invisible disabilities, so he goes to mainstream primary school. One of his invisible disabilities is life-limiting. I hate to say that word, but sometimes I have to use it to bring home the reality of the situation. He's on numerous medications, treatments and therapies throughout the day and sometimes into the night. And I was once told by someone quite senior within Edinburgh Social Work that I'm a victim of my own success. Now, I can't wake up one morning and think, I don't want to do this. I have no choice, like a lot of ladies and gentlemen have said in this room, I have no choice to be able to give my son a life, to be able to make sure his health is managed on a day-to-day basis. It's the management of his care that basically keeps him as healthy as he is every single day, and to be able to live that. I'm also a carer for my dad who's got vascular dementia and Alzheimer's, recently diagnosed. He's a heart patient, he's got diabetes, he's got heart failure. So I've kind of got foot in quite a few camps. My daughter used to benefit from young carers, but I don't know if we're unlucky. She was fortunate to go to Mary Erskine School. She did very well on her own merits, and as a result, due to the timings of that school, she no longer benefits from the young carers. She's only 13 years old. She has been caring or had a back seat in our role as a family since she was not quite 3 years old. So she's never really had a childhood. And she was introduced to young carers from probably the age of about 8 or 9, had it for a couple of years, and it's been taken away from her. The other thing is respite. I mean, everybody's got their own interpretation of respite. For me, as I said, I get to a point, and I've been in a crisis, and I've been picked up from a crisis a number of times, but it should never have to get to that stage to be helped by the system. I've asked the question recently about overnight respite because I do get to a stage where I begin to resent my own children, and that's not a healthy environment to be living in, because of the fact that I'm continuously, constantly providing, not for them, then for my father and my mother. But it's a case of there isn't anything out there that can meet my cultural and religious needs, because there is nothing out there, and they actively try and encourage to recruit in the diverse society that we live in. But in the meantime, because there's nothing there, clearly the need doesn't exist.
Got you. So, I'm going to come to the three women at this table, and then there's a couple of people here, and then I see you all. I see you all. We may or may not get to you all, but anyway, let's go for the three people at this table.
Hi, I was just picking up on something the Young Carers presentation did, and then Christina mentioned about schools. Young carers are recognised as having additional support needs in schools and should be picked up by the GERFIC system, the Getting It Right for Every Child system in schools, but they're just not. They're not recognised. The siblings of children who with additional support needs are just not recognised. You look at the pupil census data that are provided by all the local authorities to actually outlining what additional support needs they have. And there are hundreds of children with autism or physical disabilities or sensory disabilities. Many of them will have siblings who will be taking on caring roles. But when you look at how many are recorded as being young carers, because that's also recorded as an additional support need, there are a few dozen in each local authority. I know in my own Aberdeen City, for example, for primary level, there's less than 5. They put a little asterisk because there's less than 5. And yet, I know my son has 2 siblings who all take on a caring role, and most children are just not recognised for having their sibling caring role. That's what I just want to say.
Thank you.
My name is Christine Membi. I'm a carer, and also I'm representing the HOPE project, which is an organization that supports people with sickle cell in Scotland. We are based in Glasgow. What I want to talk about is the fact that parents who have children with sickle cell, most of them are not recognized as carers just because they don't have DLA. And the reason why, one of the reasons they're giving them is that the children have not been in the hospital for 2 times a whole year. Meanwhile, if you know about sickle cell, people don't want children to be in the hospital now. And they're not recognized. They don't have a proper support in the community. We don't have any support worker. We don't have proper accommodation. We don't have support with children to go to school, for example, because most of them cannot walk a distance to go to school, but the social security will not provide that because they don't have DLA, and then the local authority will not provide them with any kind of support. We came together as parents to form this organization. We try our best to help each other, but we just urge the Scottish government to look at it, because it's look at how do you call it, a special disease, something that people don't know about. And we try our best to let people to understand what we're facing here. So we have parents who stop going to work because of their carer role, but they don't have any carer support. They don't have any support as a carer. And they have also children that are actually suffering for that, because some of the time, the parents have to be in the hospital with their children who are sick, and then they have younger children at home, and no child care for them. And this is a lot of things that have to be taken on board. So this is, and then also they don't have information about how to be recognized as a carer. I, for example, have to go to a carer center, and then I have somebody to come to my house and then trying to help me because I asked for it. Some of the people don't even know of it. And being the fact that we come in for the black ethnic, which more or less are immigrants, and then nobody is there to help them. And you know, sickle cell is more or less represented in the black ethnic group. And this is another barrier for them to access the support. So I really urge the local government and the Scottish government to look into it.
Hi, my name's Wilma. I come from Aberdeen. You hear me? And I'm the scourge of the social work department. And I'm sorry to tell everybody who's younger carers and still coming. I'm 72 years old. I've been doing this for 50 years. It doesn't get any better. It gets worse. As you get older, it gets even worse. The walls that you hit get harder to hit. Sorry. So I would love to tell you that as you get older, this will get easier, but it won't. And even when you become a former carer, as part of the online form to come here today, I had to fill in, am I a carer or a former carer? Technically, I'm a former carer, as my son is now in care. But that is not true. I will be a carer for the rest of my life. That won't stop because he's somewhere else. But what nobody ever told us was the impact that him going away would have on our mental health. And my husband and I almost had a mental breakdown. Luckily, I talk a lot, and that's good when you have mental issues. Talking is great. So I can talk it to death, and I have. And we have come to the conclusion that we've gone through this transition, that everybody calls it. We've come out the other end, and we've learned a lot, but no one told us anything about what we would be going through while our son left home. The other point I want to make is about the term former carer. I would like that to be abolished. If you're a carer for the rest of your life. It will never change. But when you lose someone that you're caring for, a parent dies or goes away, the carer then realizes that the years they've spent caring have had such an impact on them, they now need care. And where is the care for those people? I have a sister who cared for her parents. She was happy to do it and willing, but her health has now got so bad because of that caring that she needs care. So that's my role as her sister. So I would like that to be acknowledged, that there are no such thing as a former carer, there are just carers.
Okay, so this lady here. Over there behind you. Yep. The lady with the stripy top right there.
Thanks
thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackie. I live in East Lothian in North Berwick. I'd like to put to Parliament the £123 of earnings per week needs to go as a carer. I want to work. I cannot work full-time. I'm a nurse. I'm needed out there, and I just cannot work full-time. I can barely do a shift at that sort of rate. And to keep myself going and my financial side going, I need to be able to earn more than 123 quid a week. It's ludicrous.
Okay. Actually, a couple of, 2 or 3 people down here. Do you want to come to the front? Somebody cover this table here. Thank you.
Hello, thank you everyone. My name is Celia Sweeney and I've been a carer for 19.5 years for my son who's got one of the rarest brain diseases in the world. For 11 years I was at the sharp end of caring, just as we hear everyone's story. In 2011 I graduated from Edinburgh with a major in psychology as a social scientist to protect my son, and I've spent all these years now hopefully making a difference. I've spent the last 2 years, Joe, you'll know it's actually me that was did the research for the transition from the CPG for carers for the last 2 years. So my point now is, believe it or not, I'm registered medically disabled. I've got major health issues, probably due to my caring role. You wouldn't believe to look at me that I was absolutely almost dead in April this year. So my point is with transition, whether it's a young adult or an older adult, our young people and our children that we care for, that's what keeps us going. We love them and they need to be valued and integrated into society. Community care is decimated. As the Griffiths report said, it's everybody's child but nobody's baby. There needs to be standardised integration, community care, and our young people need to be valued. I've actually written a whole new project as a pilot project for Edinburgh and did all the research for the last 2 years as to what I want for my son, because I'm not going to be around forever. What happens when I die? Where is his life going to be? And that's the same for all the carers here, for all our young people. Also, can I just say that last year at the Carers Parliament, I asked for the Scottish Government to implement a safety net, because what happened last year when Paul left school is I had to reprove his disability. So that meant for 13 weeks they stopped his money, £600 a month loss for 3 months. And that's standard right across the board. If you're applying for ESA, you have to reprove your young person's disability. So they give you the minimum level for 13 weeks. So I lost £600 a month and I asked for us at the Scottish Government last year to provide a safety net for that. The other thing we'd like the Scottish Government to consider is pension provision. I don't have a pension. Why? Because I've been a carer for 19 years. Right? So what happens when I reach pension age? There needs to be pension provision. Before I was a carer, I was a top sales manager and I travelled the world, all expenses paid. I had a life, I had money. Money's not important, my health's important, and my son and my family's important. I brought up 3 boys on my own for 15 years. So the whole point is what happened this year, I became seriously ill. But in 2001, what people don't know is I was on life support for 10 days. I was medically dead for 10 days. So I was registered high rate disabled then. On top of all the caring rules, so we need pension provision, we need proper financial support. Now I worked out, if I look after Paul 24/7, which he needs, I've got to be on call, that works out 168 hours a week, 8,736 hours a year. At the living wage of £9 an hour, that equals £78,000 I should be earning for my caring provision.
My name's Claire Mooney, and I have been in my caring role for 22 years. I know I look a lot younger, but my eldest daughter's 22. Just like many of you in the room, I hear the same words over and over and over again. Fight. We hear words like violation. You know, I know that probably nobody in this room has any privacy. I don't know if any of you know what privacy is, because people come into your life, whether they be medical people, social work, they go through your business like there's no tomorrow. They know what you earn, they know when you sleep, they know what you do. You know, we have no privacy whatsoever. My daughter has always been deemed 2 to 1, to the point where education said, we can't cope with her, right? But they sent her home to me every day, and I'm only one person. I don't split myself into 2 and 3 people when she comes home. But luckily enough, they work a 40-hour week that get paid and get pension, and they can close the door at 3 o'clock. Well, my door is never closed. I had her home for 8 months before we found any educational provision for her. She spent most of her education in a seclusion room where she was beat, is the only word I can put it, because she was restrained and she was black and blue from head to toe. If you're a MSP, Joe, you'll have seen the pictures because I've sent them to you all. Looking for help. But my problem is, so we have additional stress as a carer, we have additional costs, but my issue with her is I've tried to fight a legal battle on my daughter's behalf because, as everyone in the room have mentioned, fight, fight, fight. When you get to the point where there is a brick wall, I'm going through that brick wall. I don't care who you are, what your role is. If you have violated my child, I'm taking you out. That is the only way I'll describe it. I am now fighting a legal battle of nearly 5 years through the civil court, which cost me £500 an hour. Nobody is helping me pay that. I work full-time for the Scottish Ambulance Service. My wage is going to fight legal costs for my daughter, not for me, for her. As a human right, she should have never been held on a floor for an hour and 20 minutes, a concrete floor. But if I did that to my child and sent her to school black and blue, they would have been all over me like a rash. 2 people were charged with culpable and reckless conduct, but because my daughter is not a credible witness, like this lady over here, because she's disabled. She has autism, she has Prader-Willi. She will not be able to testify in court, but I am her guardian, I am her voice. Why am I continuing this fight with nobody listening? The PF threw it out of court because they decided we don't have a culpable witness to go forward, to take this case forward. I'm her voice. We have pictures to prove this. I went through the court system to get the guardianship. It's worthless. It's not even worth the paper it's written on because nobody is listening. I need to watch my time, guys. So I'll let somebody else speak, but yeah, you're not alone.
Yep, already here.
Hi, my name's Catherine Snedden and I'm a carer from Falkirk. I've brought my nearly 13-year-old daughter along with me. My 12-year-old son has epilepsy and a severe learning disability. From the day of his transition from nursery to primary school, it came out that he was not going to cope with a full day at school. I have had to fight CAMHS, I've had to fight Bernardo's, I've had to fight paediatricians, I've had to fight education. I nearly taken my life 6 years ago at the hands of education and having to try and fight. We had a named person appointed to us who was always on about my mental health. She promised heaven and earth, never pulled through with any of it. When it came to my son's epilepsy diagnosis, I had to prove to paediatricians and neurologists that my son was having seizures. My health visitor was the first person that noticed he was having a seizure. I had to then take the decision to actually physically go and get my video camera to record my son having a seizure before I was proved that my son had epilepsy. I've had to fight everything that I have got for any support. My daughter, who is sitting here with me today, I am proud of her. I actually put her forward for a Young Scot Award last year and she got to the finals. She has saved our little brother's life on so many occasions. She's put herself in the line of danger on stairs when he was physically having a seizure. Where was the help? We've had absolutely no help for Skye. 5 years ago, she did get some help from the young carers in Falkirk, but it was in Reading Muirhead, which is about 7-8 miles away. They put a taxi on for her after school to take her there and bring her back. The funding then ceased. They told us we had to find our own way there. I don't drive. I can't take my son on public transport because he has seizures. The social work stepped in and they gave us 5 weeks of funding. That then dried up. Skye's had no opportunity, she's had no support, and I have to say right here, right now, and I know that they're in the room, Young Scot are the only ones that have put their hands up and actually offered any support for this young girl, and I am so proud of her for everything that she's done for her little brother to this day. And I just want to make one last point, sorry, I know I'm out of time, but the lady over there, I absolutely am amazed by your fight. Everybody that is a parent carer and a carer in this room, the fight that we have to do day in, day out. I will say, I did nearly take my life 6 years ago, and I'm glad that I'm here today to actually be a part of this, but I hail you for bringing this up. Thank you very much.
Okay. I'm going to take 2 more people. So, who am I going to take? Is there I hate to do this because I hear all these women's voices, but is there another man in the room with the okay, there's one man there, and then I'll take the lady in the stripy scarf here. That one, yes. That's just because you've got a stripy scarf. So there is the lesson. If you want to speak in an event like this, you need to wear something bright. So yes, over there.
Hello, my name's Graham Searle. I'm also from North Ayrshire, like 2 of the previous ones. My story is not as harrowing as some, and I really empathise with some, and some of the stories are really horrifying. However, I have a question for Joe. Carers Act came out in 2016, implemented from the 1st of April last year. How come it takes so long to get a carer support plan written, and then some of the items on it still taking time to be implemented? In my case, I applied for the ACSP back in April last year. Eventually, in June this year, it got signed off by social services, and I was approved to have SDS. That was then passed to finance, and it is still sitting with finance. I know how much they've recommended me to have, but the SDS was for respite breaks. I still cannot plan any sort of break because I have not got the money yet. Last I heard, there was still a waiting list of about 12 to 15 people. Now, is that the same in every area? 18... That's all I wanted to raise. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam, you have the last word.
Thank you. My name's Anne. I'm from Clackmannanshire, and I was a carer for my father who had dementia. And everything that we had to face with him with dementia is the things that I've heard from all of you people as well. And I think what I'd like to say is that it became very quickly clear to me that a lot of the authorities who you think are there to support you and help you are not. They're there for their own agenda, they're there for their own self-preservation, and they do not help you. They have a list of things which they can offer you. And in my case, I would get a carer's assessment and they would say, what do you want? And so I would tell them, I would like somebody to sit with my dad for a couple of hours in the evening so I can get out of the house. And they'd say, no, we can't do that. We can offer you respite. And respite was no good to him because he had been thrown out of every respite place that he'd ever been put in. What I wanted was something in the house for him, and I was told that I couldn't get that. And I'm fairly sure that in my record, or in his record, however it's recorded, there is a piece of paper which says, carer's assessment given, carer, what she was offered was refused. I'm pretty sure that's how it's recorded. And it goes back to the man that spoke at the very beginning about actually recording, even although it's not possible to give it, actually recording what people are asking for so that when the money does become available, that we can actually get the things that we actually want, because what I was offered was something that was totally inappropriate, so I said no. So the only thing that I did was I saved the council a bit of money. That was basically it. But I'd also like to ask the room as a whole, just a rhetorical question, really, is how did we get to the point in this country where the equivalent of a double glazing salesman can overturn the medical opinion of a consultant? How does that happen? And how do people get refused money when they have a condition that they cannot change and that is not ever going to improve? How does that happen, that somebody with no qualification can overturn a medical opinion? I don't understand that. That's it.
Thank you. So, the first thing I want to say is a huge thank you, actually. A huge thank you to all of you who've spoken in the debate. It's really actually very affecting to hear you. It's very it's quite difficult, actually, sometimes to listen to what you've got to say. But it's really important that you're saying it, and it's really important you're saying it in this room, in this space, with people actually paying attention to what you're saying. Because these are really challenging issues, they're long-term issues, they're systemic issues. None of them are issues that are going to go away quickly or be easy to resolve. So thank you for your contributions. And obviously the report is written up from the event, and as you'll see from the report that happened from last year, there is a response from the government, and I would absolutely encourage you to hold on to your thoughts and take people to task in relation to what you're experiencing. I know you do. I hear that you do that. I seriously hear you do that. So, I'm going to now introduce Alison Everson. Alison is the President of the Confederation of Scottish Local Authorities, COSLA. COSLA is the body, and she'll tell you herself, COSLA is the body which brings together local authorities in Scotland and does a lot of kind of policy agenda setting for the country. Alison herself is a former co-leader of Aberdeenshire Council, and was a councillor, I think I'm not sure if you still are, you still are, right, for North Kincardine Ward, and leader of Aberdeenshire Labour Group. So she is obviously in herself in the front line of delivering services in the North East. So I will allow Alison to take the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's been a really important morning. Yes, as I've been introduced, I'm Alison Everson. I'm President of the Convention of Scottish Local Authorities, which is COSLA. We're one of the spheres of government in Scotland, along with the Scottish Government, and we represent 32 local authorities, and we are the voice for those local authorities on national issues. And we work with councils and in partnership with the Scottish Government to strengthen local democracy and to improve local services. We're here today to listen. It's really important to do that, and the more I've heard, the more I've realised how important it is that I am here today doing that listening. I can't give lots of answers today, but what I can do is to commit to working together with you, to taking this conversation further, to taking it forward, because I think what I've also heard this morning is a lot of words, that word fight. I'd like us to work together so we get away from that word fight, and over time we come to a word cooperate, because the work you do is so important, and we need to work with you to deliver and look after our carers and the people they are caring for. I think that's really important to have that as our overall aim. I do have a bit of personal experience. My father lived with multiple sclerosis and with dementia. My mother acted as his carer for a long time. After my father died, then my mother was given voluntary work as a mentor for young carers, and did a lot of work supporting young carers where she lived. So that gave me a bit of insight as well into the experience of our younger carers. I think we need very much to take today as an opportunity. We need to recognise that the care experiences in my family, the care experiences in all your families is unique. But within that uniqueness, every carer, every care experience is equally important. COSLA leaders have set the priority for health and social care, enabling communities to live healthy, independent lives, ensuring and promoting an outcomes and prevention culture. And this priority very much supports the focus of today's debate, that everyone, including carers, have the right to personalised, supportive conversations that focus on what matters to them. And in responding to that right, what I've also heard today is that we need to be actively aware of cultural differences. We need to ensure that care is accessible to everybody across our communities. And when there are barriers to that care being accessed, we need together to break those barriers down. The Carers Act legislation has been an important step in ensuring that carers across Scotland have the right to personalised support that recognises the diversity of their lives and experiences. But what I've also learned today very strongly is that that must clearly be seen as a first step, a very key, a very important first step, but the first of many future steps where we can get to that collaboration, that cooperation to meet the needs of carers and the people they care for across Scotland more effectively. Local authorities and health and social care partnerships do have a key role in ensuring improvements for adult and young carers and the people they look after. Local areas have been designing their carer strategies to ensure they are right for their different communities and the carers who live in their local areas. And there are indeed great examples across Scotland, and I think we need to look at those as well. We've talked about the problems here, we've talked about issues which aren't working well. I think we do need to recognise that in some areas things are working really well, and we need to take that as a benchmark, as an example, and share that good practice elsewhere as well. Integration authorities also have a duty to involve carer representatives on their integrated joint boards and for carers to be involved in strategic planning. This ensures that carers' voices are heard when local services are designed, and they can be flexible enough to make a difference to carers from all backgrounds. But what I've also heard today very strongly is that this must include the design of services to support families living with autism, living with other additional support needs for their children. An autism strategy needs to have input from the families living with it in order to be effective in the community and effective in giving the support it's meant to be giving. And I've also heard very strongly that voice for siblings of people living with additional support needs or with autism in particular. I myself come from a teaching background and I'm very aware of the pressures on siblings as well, but we need to formalise that. We need to do something more to recognise that, and that's been a message today from you all. COSLA recognises the contribution that carers make to the health and social care service, and we need to make sure that we have a sustainable system both now and into the future. Yes, you're right, local government is indeed suffering under austerity and reducing funding, but we need to make sure that there's a sustainable system that we can all make to use for what we need it to do. We need to ensure that we have the right investment to ensure local areas can deliver flexible and diverse care to people and to their carers. And I think the key to that means we need more local decision making. We need to have empowerment for our communities to come forward and have a voice in what the local authority should be delivering. And we need to have more fiscal empowerment for local authorities so that they can have more ways of looking at money more creatively, so that it can work together with those communities to deliver as required. We've also heard about the impact when services are not available locally and people have to stay in hospital. We need to work with the Scottish Government to ensure that councils can build and provide new models of care in their local areas and communities. This is vital to ensure people have a choice about the care and support that is right for them. And that leads to another important point as well. Local authorities cannot do this on our own. We don't pretend that we can. We need to work with other public sector partners across the whole of the public sector, even ones that you might not think immediately have a role in this. But the whole of the public sector and the third sector needs to work together to support carers and the people they care for. COSLA and the Scottish Government have jointly launched a national programme of reform to support local areas. This approach taken has been to co-produce this reform with people who use social care and support and their carers and the people who've set the priorities for their work. Now, this is important that we carry on working together with the Scottish Government to get things right. This co-production must involve the whole of the social care system, including the national carer organisations, who we do know already do a fantastic job of ensuring that the voice of carers are heard at a national level. But importantly, as well as all that, we need to ensure that we have a workforce in social care that can provide care, can support. We've heard about the challenges being faced in our island, in our more remote rural areas, and we need to have a national system as well that recognises that and is able to respond somehow to that situation. However, we also know that the services that impact a carer's life go beyond just those of social care and health and include other services provided by local government. We've heard mention of some of those today as well: transport, housing, leisure, and many others as well. What I've heard this morning is what would be really beneficial is some kind of single point of contact to ensure accessing all those services across the whole area is easier for everybody. Carers don't have time for bureaucracy. They don't have the time they don't want the stress of that bureaucracy, and a single point of contact would appear to be something we need to investigate to make that easier for everybody as well. We need to ensure that all the work we do nationally in developing policies and legislation have the rights of carers at their heart. And that has clearly been made clear by the conversations we've had this morning. The reform of adult social care very much supports this principle, but we do need to build on it. And we also need to support the voice of carers to be heard at a more local level as well. COSLA itself has recently appointed a carers representative to the Health and Social Care Board as an advisor to elected members. The purpose of this is to ensure that COSLA's position always reflects the views of carers. The role will offer challenge to officers and elected members where this has not been considered to date. I've also heard comments this morning about social care charging. We've heard about the impact of social care charging on many people. COSLA is already committed to looking at social care charging with the Scottish Government through the reform of adult social care, and obviously that's a key aspect we need to take forward and prioritise. Today, we've also had a huge and powerful input from the young carers, from the presentation here in person, but also from the video and from the people above us as well doing the filming. I think what they've done is challenged us all to think about what we do for them, what we do with them, and how we must listen and always be prepared to listen to them as well. The rights of young carers and ensuring they have access to support is a priority for COSLA's Children and Young People team. We know that young carers face additional pressures when it comes to their education, and a caring role can have a real impact on a child or a young person's ability to get the very best from their education. And we've also heard and we've learnt that for a whole number of reasons, ranging from anxiety about who they are caring for, or because it's difficult to get to school, or because of all the work they've got to do in the morning before they can actually think about going out that front door and going off to education because of the caring role. We've understood all that from what we've heard this morning, and that's something as well to take back to our children and young people's team. Teachers and school staff have a crucial role in supporting children and young people who are carers. We've been working with carers organisations to increase awareness and education of the rights of children and young people who have caring roles, as well as increasing awareness of the impact of caring on their education. And from today, I'm also taking away that we need to focus specifically on the mental health of our young carers to make a real difference to their lives. And also, we've got to focus on the fact that 16 is not a magical age when all the problems end and they suddenly become adults and everything's fine. As parents, as mothers, as fathers, we know that our children at age 16 don't suddenly become independent people not needing us anymore, and young carers are the same as everybody else. We need to make sure that the care we offer is beyond that magical age of 16, because it isn't so magical really, especially when you've just had your 16th birthday and you don't feel any different. COSLA have been promoting the work of carers organisations with elected members who recently received a presentation from young carers on the impact of their role in education. And in addition, a number of local authorities have been working in partnership with Carers Scotland on raising awareness of the issues young carers face and have been delivering workshops to probationary teachers. We know, and we've heard today and we've had reinforced today, there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to do on the whole range of issues raised today, in education, in wider children's services, in the whole range of essential services that local government offers. COSLA and the young carers and local authorities will continue to work hard to make sure that we do reach that getting it right for every child for these children and young people right across Scotland. We've heard that there are young carers in schools right across Scotland, and some get a really good service and some feel that they don't. Yes, we do need to make sure that balance changes before next year. I would like to finish by reiterating that COSLA really is committed to ensuring that all carers are aware of and have access to the support that they are entitled to. You need to help us recognise what that support is, but that's where the collaboration and partnership actually comes as well. We need to work together on that, and I'd like to take that as my point moving on now. Let's try and move away from that fight. Let's try and move to collaboration, cooperation, because to be honest, at the end of the day, we all have the same aims in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison, for that. And finally, I'm going to ask Joe Fitzpatrick to come back to the stage and sum up the debate today. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And if I can start by saying a huge thank you to everyone who has stood up today and shared your opinions and experiences. Some of that's been quite difficult for me to listen to as a Minister with responsibility, but it's important that I hear it because that's how we can ultimately make changes. For those people who didn't manage to get an opportunity to contribute to the debate or who didn't feel comfortable speaking in such a public forum, I'd encourage you to visit the engagement zone this afternoon and leave your thoughts there. And all of that will be wrapped up in a way that, to make sure that government is able to take account of everything that people are saying. As Minister, I've been lucky enough to meet and listen to carers of all ages from a diverse range of backgrounds across Scotland, and today's contributions are absolutely testimony to the fact that everybody's situation is different. I'm going to put the speech aside because there were so many contributions today, and we're relatively tight for time. I'm going to try and cover as many of the comments that people made as possible. I'm unlikely to get to every single thing that people said, but as I said, we've got a team of people, and we'll make sure that we're taking account of all of that. Some of the contributions were also very personal, so it wouldn't necessarily be appropriate for me to contribute in a public forum. The first area that was talked about from young carers, first of all, and Patricia and a number of other people was around mental health. And I think it says a lot in terms of where we've come to, that so many people were prepared to talk about mental health in this sort of forum, because I think when this Parliament met first in 6 years ago, was it 7 years ago? I don't think people would had that confidence. It is really, we all have mental health, and it's really important that people feel capable to talk about it, because that's how we can improve mental health. We've now got a dedicated Minister for Mental Health who's prioritised for that. But one of the points that young carers talked about was about that specifically about the support for young carers in terms of mental health, and it's really timely that they've chosen that to be their priority, because there is a big focus on children and young people in our mental health strategy. We've invested, I think, an extra £4 million in CAMHS. We're employing new staff, recruiting an extra 350 counsellors to be in our secondary schools. So hopefully that will see things improving going forward. It's really important that you as carers will consider your mental health as well, because the job that you do is amazing. I know it's sometimes it's more than we could imagine you could do. As government, we couldn't replace what you do, so it is important that you look after your health, including your mental health as well. Tom from PASDA and the lady at the end asked about unmet need. And so all carers have a right to that adult carer support plan or a young carer statement, and the local care strategy must include info on that unmet need in their area. So that absolutely should be there, and they should be saying where there is unmet need. Elaine and Fiona made a very powerful plea, I think, for the funding for the Carers Act to be ring-fenced. That was something that was raised. That was something that was raised last year, as well as, I think Elaine said. So we have fully funded the Carers Act with an extra £17.4 million and £10.5 million this year. So there's a balance here between national direction and local decision making. So we've put the funding in, and what we've done this year, based on the contributions last year, is that we're asking for more information from the health and social care partnerships to improve the transparency and accountability around how that money is spent. But there is a balance between national direction and local accountability. So hopefully that additional transparency will help you be able to pinpoint how money is being spent in local areas. There was someone whose name I don't have was asking about charging for social care. Obviously, we already have extended free personal care to people under 65, and so carers can't be charged for carer support. And just this month, Nicola Sturgeon pledged to scrap all non-residential social care charging if the Scottish Government is re-elected in 2021. So that's, I think, the journey that Scotland's been going on. This is not the situation in the rest of the UK, so we've had to make priorities to say this is an area that we want to spend money on, and we think that there's further to go. Rebecca and Vicky and others talked about that constant battle that you felt you were facing, whether it's with services or SDS. You shouldn't have to be facing that battle. You're already doing a fantastic job for us, so you shouldn't have to. I would urge people who are facing that battle to try and draft in their local MSP into that. Certainly I find myself as a constituency member supporting members when they shouldn't need that support, because it should just be more straightforward. But don't feel that you have to fight that battle on your own. MSP should be there. But part of the way, one of the points was around self-directed support and the battle to get that. And so in June this year, we updated the implementation plan for how we'd move SDS forward. And part of that was funding of 32 local SDS advocacy and support organisations to help people access SDS. So I really understand just how important that is to people. Several speakers talked about problems accessing support for a cared for person, and I think Alison talked about the work that the Scottish Government and COSLA are doing in terms of reforming social care to focus on those issues like consistency, transparency and investment. And there's obviously a workshop this afternoon where people will be able to take that forward. Lots of people talked about the extreme pressure that they're under. The Carers Act provides a right for all carers. So I would encourage anyone who's not currently got a support plan to make sure that they do manage to access that. If people want to discuss with folk about how they would go about that, it should already be in place, but if it's not, then I think that should help. Nikki and Jackie talked about the loss of carers allowance because of part-time jobs, and I think one of the points is that currently the carers allowance is administered by the DWP. We expect it to start delivering that in early 2021, so we're still looking and working with carers organisations and speaking to carers about how we can improve that, so when that is administered in Scotland, that we can do that better. So these are all things that I think it's a good time for us to be hearing these voices and to make sure it can be continued, to make sure that we get it right in terms of the balance going forward. On the same point about going into employment, Peter Lawson talked about the Carers Positive Network, and RBS is a really important example of a relatively large organisation which is a Carers Positive employer, and it was interesting for me to go and visit and just hear just how important, what a difference that makes to people to be able to continue in employment because they've got an employer who understands some of the challenges, some of the needs and some of the simple things they can do to make sure they're not losing that experience of carers, because as well as doing a fantastic job caring for their loved ones, carers have a huge range of experience which is valuable in the employment market. So by being a carers positive employer, it is possible for employers to be able to benefit from that. Caitlin talked about the Young Carers grant criteria, and I think there is that kind of balance. As I said, we don't yet administer all of the grants, but we'll be taking over responsibility for disability benefits, so we'll be able to look at how PIP is replaced going forward, and hopefully we'll move to, our aim around all of the benefits is to develop a system in Scotland which treats people with respect and humanity, and I think we're certainly moving in that direction. If you speak to any of the people who work for Social Security Scotland, then they will tell you, most of whom previously worked for DWP or other organisations, the cultural difference in terms of putting the people that they are serving at the centre of everything they do, and how they really appreciate working for that organisation. And there was a number of other points, I think, which are important to feed into that development as we develop a new social security. I'm seeing I'm just over time, so I'm not going to get to everything. Zahida made a really important point about invisible disabilities, which I think we need to all be mindful of. You also made an important point about cultural need. public sector the public sector equality duty is highlighted in the Carers Act, and protective characteristics is very much part of that. But going right back to the start of I think what I said in my opening contribution, we need to be making sure that we are tailoring the support for carers individually, because everybody is different. So we need to, the lesson from today overall is we need to make sure that it's person-centred and tailored for you. Zahida and Graham also talked about respite, and I absolutely recognise the fundamental importance of breaks for carers for themselves and respite. If you burn out, then you won't be able to continue providing that care, so it would be a failing on society if we can't provide you the support you need. I know we don't get it right just now, so I know we've got more work to do on that, but if we don't get it right, then, and you end up burning out, then the cost for all of us is going to be higher in terms of having to pick up the pieces, never mind the impact it's had on your lives as carers. So that is one of the areas that I want to continue working to see how we can improve that. Graham talked about timescales for the adult care support plan, and the local carer strategy should state specifically what the target timescale is, and guidance suggests that it should be reasonable and it should prioritise the most urgent cases. We're kind of getting up, I'm over time. To conclude on one, I think, very positive point that was made, Sky's mum mentioned the support that Young Scot give, and Young Scot are an amazing organisation. I want to absolutely commend them. The Scottish Government funds Young Scot for the Young Carers programme, and will continue to do that because of the kind of feedback that we get. As a government, we can't improve how things are for carers alone. We need to do it in partnership with COSLA, but also with all of you. So your voices today, and apologies for those who have not managed to respond to, but your voices have all been heard, and it's really important that we continue to hear what you have to say, even when it's difficult, even when it's challenging for me as Minister and for us in government. So thank you all very much. Enjoy the rest of the day.